1970 election. The Democrats held control of the Congress, but the Republicans reduced the House losses the party in the White House normally experiences in off years and actually made gains in the Senate. And in the gubernatorial races, the Democrats regained a majority for the first time since 1964. We'll have details later. Most of the post-election day interest centered on the cliffhanger Senate race in Indiana. With virtually complete but unofficial returns, two-term Democrat Vance Hartke held barely a few hundred vote lead. David Henderson reports.
The Indiana Senate race was predicted to be close, but the vote count that continues to change every hour is unprecedented and has surprised everyone. Neither incumbent Democratic Senator Vance Hartke nor his challenger, Republican Richard Radebush, will speculate on what happened at the polls yesterday. But comments by their spokesman reflect the narrow lead that Hartke holds.
I think we're close to winning this race in what has been a very difficult race, a race nationally seen as one of the most, I think, vicious would not be a unreasonable term to use. I think it's rather remarkable that we do have this slim lead as we look at Metzenbaum in Ohio, who was predicted a winner, who lost. Senator Gore, who with Senator Hartke was one of the top targets, who lost. I think we've made a exceedingly good race out of this.
This has been one of the closest elections that I have ever had the experience to participate in. It is not decided yet, and therefore I cannot make any firm statement as to the result of the senatorial race. I think it may even extend over the next day or so before a final count can be had.
Late today, Indiana Governor Edgar Whitcomb ordered state police to impound every ballot box in the state and tag and seal all voting machines until voting figures can be verified. That action and the closeness of the race indicate that a recount is certain. David Henderson, CBS News, Indianapolis.
Even without the Hartke squeaker, the Democrats kept control of the Senate while losing some seats. Of the 35 seats at stake, 10 Republican and 25 Democratic, the Republicans won 11, the Democrats 21, and a conservative and an independent won each. The best-known casualties included Democrats Albert Gore of Tennessee and Joseph Tidings of Maryland, and Republicans George Murphy of California, Charles Goodell of New York, and Ralph Smith of Illinois. The result? A new lineup of 44 Republicans, 53 Democrats, 2 third party, and 1 undecided. In the 435 House races, the Republicans held their losses to about a third of the normal for such elections. Allocating the 5 vacant seats to the last party that held them, the Republicans went into this election with 189 seats, the Democrats 246. 2 races still are undecided in Kentucky and Massachusetts, with Democrats leading in both of those. Otherwise, the results show 198 Republicans elected, 178 Republicans elected, and 255 Democrats, a net Democratic gain of 9 to 11. Notable casualties included freshman anti-war Democrat Allard Lowenstein of New York and 20-year veteran Republican William Ayers of Ohio. The Democrats' biggest win came in the 35 gubernatorial races. The Republicans won 12 and the Democrats 20, with 3 races still undecided. Republican incumbent William Milliken leads in Michigan, where Detroit's computerized tally system broke down. The Democrats lead with incumbent Kenneth Curtis in Maine and incumbent Frank Leach in Rhode Island. If those leads hold, the new lineup would be 21 Republicans and 29 Democrats in the state houses. Among big casualties in these races were Republican Governors Winthrop Rockefeller in Arkansas and Claude Kirk in Florida. Democrats also stunned Republicans with upsets of Governors Norbert Tiemann in Nebraska, Dewey Bartlett in Oklahoma, and Frank Farrar in South Dakota. In one of the hottest Senate races, New York State, long known for its liberal politics, sent a conservative to the Senate. With thinly veiled White House help, James Buckley got 39% of the vote to 37% for the liberal Democrat and 24% for the liberal Republican incumbent. Mike Wallace reports.
The man who's number one is James Buckley, brother of columnist William F. He is a lawyer and businessman, wealthy and cultivated. This was the second time he had run for the Senate as the candidate of the Conservative Party of New York. He's a minority victor. His two liberal opponents got more than 60% of the vote between them. But Buckley insists conservatives are really in the majority now in New York.
It has been a genuine coalition of the people to reach out and take this great state and push it in a new direction and to telegraph across the country that the American people want a new course, they want a new politics, and I am the voice for that new politics.
President Nixon gave Buckley tacit endorsement. Spiro Agnew's help was more explicit.
I do believe that it served to emphasize the fact that I was the only candidate who was in basic sympathy with the objectives of the administration. And this underscored what I'd been trying to say, so that I think it certainly gave me a push in that manner.
Came within a hair's breadth of winning. He feels that if Goodell had dropped out, as he almost did, that would have made the difference.
It's a lesson that the moderate and the independent and the progressive and the liberal elements in our society can no longer divide themselves.
I do believe that I have succumbed to tides that are running in this country that are wrong. But we can change those tides.
Buckley says he'll vote as a Republican. I asked him today who are his philosophical brothers in the Senate. Dominic of Colorado, he replied, and Tower of Texas. They are Richard Nixon's conservative messengers to Capitol Hill. Mike Wallace, CBS News, New York.
In contrast to New York, conservatism has been the recent political trend in California. But in another hot Senate race, the nation's largest state chose a liberal Democrat, John Tunney, over conservative incumbent Republican George Murphy, 54% to 45%. Terry Drinkwater reports.
The biggest winner in California was Senator-elect John Tunney, liberal Democrat. His closest personal and political friend is Ted Kennedy. He beat Republican George Murphy despite all the administration's efforts to save his Senate seat for the GOP.
The president and the vice president and most members of the cabinet came out and tried to tell Californians how to vote. And I'll tell you something. Californians like to make up their own mind.
Senator Murphy was philosophical about his defeat, saying he would play golf for a few days with Bob Hope and then decide on a new career, probably not in Hollywood or in politics. His fellow conservative, Ronald Reagan, was one of the few Republican governors in the country to win decisively. For him, it was largely a personal victory. He was not sufficiently persuasive with California voters to help Murphy or to keep Republican control of the legislature of this most populous state. California will now be reapportioned by the Democrats. Reagan's toughness on student rioters and law and order was apparently what the majority of Californians liked. The manager of Jess Unruh's campaign said their man lost because he didn't have enough money to buy lots of television time. Reagan spent heavily in the media. The real surprise in California was Wilson Riles, who decisively defeated arch-conservative Max Rafferty for state superintendent of public instruction.
I believe in integrated schools and will do everything I can to advance that cause. But I will issue no mandates from Sacramento on the method by which you integrate.
Wilson Riles was elected to a nonpartisan office, but all of the rest of the California political election was nonpartisan in a sense, too. Voters here cast their ballots for men, not for party. Terry Drinkwater, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Top political figures took predictable views of the returns. By almost every standard of measurement, said Democratic National Chairman Lawrence O'Brien, the Republicans suffered a resounding defeat. President Nixon thought otherwise.